Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you all doing this fine day? I hope you're all fit and well. My flight back to Italy was just over 2 hours, a mere hop and a skip, I think you'll agree. And while there was a 1 hour time difference between Italy and the UK, absolutely no reason for jet lag. Furthermore, on yesterday's show, I specifically said today it is Wednesday, the 9th of August. So why then did I sit in front of my computer yesterday and wait for the start of a Microsoft Teams meeting that was booked in my diary for today? Because I'm an idiot and because I'm still clinging on to holiday mode, I guess. Incidentally, I was sent an article last night, and it contained a bit in which both the interviewer and the interviewee were talking about how some reporting on the demolition industry is negative. It was it was quite clearly aimed at me, and I'm okay with that. The interviewer then boasted that his publication produces only positive content. I know they watch this show regularly, so here's my message to them. You carry on with your positive content. Keep blowing smoke up the industry's rear end in the vain hope it might lend you some credibility. You can leave the journalism to me. What you're doing is something else, something considerably less. Now, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this negative show on the road. Question of the day already. What's the point in one-sided arse-licking content? What point indeed? Jim Turner, thank you very much indeed for that, Jim. You're absolutely right. Doesn't sit well with me, but hey, others it may well do. It is, what is it? It is Thursday, the 10th of August. Thursday, the 10th of August. I'm saying that twice, just so that I remember it. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, a small victory for the Breakfast Show and a bigger victory for one of its viewers and possibly for the industry at large. Kubota keeps its cool. How to become a backhoe loader operator featuring Ben Wade, plus how John Deere is combining tradition and innovation in its dozer range. And we're going to get to all of that in just a second. But first, let us peer back through the mist of time to see what was happening on this day in history. On this day in 1934, baseball legend Babe Ruth announced his retirement. In 1942, General Montgomery was appointed commander of the British 8th Army in North Africa. I think we all know how that turned out. Really rather well, all things considered. In 1960, the movie Psycho premiered in Los Angeles. And in 1979, Michael Jackson released his Off the Wall album. And it was quite an album too. And on this day in 2019, financier Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell after an apparent suicide. Now, before we get into the real meat of the show, let me remind you of that question of the day. Yes, I'd like you to imagine that the Breakfast Show decided to host a karaoke night. Don't panic, we never will. But just imagine that we did. We hosted a karaoke night, and it would be free to enter. But in order to attend, you had to agree to sing one song. So what song would you choose? I have a terrible voice. I'm not one of these people that sings in the shower and is quite proud of it. I do sing in the shower, and it sounds awful. But if I was forced, I think I'd go for Patience by Guns N' Roses. I know most of the words, and I actually did sing it with the Guns N' Roses bass player, Duff McKagan, once. It's a long story, but I reckon that would be my choice. What about you? What would be your go-to karaoke song? Let us know in the chat. And we begin with a small victory for the Breakfast Show, a bigger victory for one of its viewers, and an even bigger victory, possibly, for common sense. You might recall that about a month ago, we highlighted the plight of one of our viewers, Graham Williams. Even though he's been working as a machine operator for many years, he was facing the very real prospect of losing his competence cards. Graham is severely dyslexic and was struggling to apply to upgrade his cards to current standards and to actually sit the test to secure those cards as well. Well, another of our show regulars, Mick Norton, was watching the show on the day that I highlighted Graham Williams' plight. Now, those of you that are familiar with Mick Norton will know he loves the calls. And once he sinks his teeth in, he's a difficult man to shake off. Well, he took Graham Williams' story to the folks at Nocken and asked for some guidance and some help as well. Yesterday afternoon, I received a LinkedIn message from Mick to say that Graham had successfully passed his card renewal requirement for all categories held. So he gets to keep his cards. Mick says, this is Mick Norton directly quoting, Nocken's Carl Hassel and Fenton Kearney are to be applauded for their sterling efforts in assisting the special needs candidate in a truly professional manner. Hear, hear. Couldn't agree more. But I will also go on to say I would certainly like to applaud Mick's tenacity and generosity for having picked this up and run with it. This show played a tiny, tiny part in this story, but I wonder if those purveyors of positive content could have helped make this happen. Now, if we could just sort out the CSCS grandfather rights fiasco. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's DJ Go Ham. You are watching The Breakfast Show.
Yes, you are most certainly watching the Breakfast Show. Now, cast your mind back to the Plant Work Show back in June. Seems like a million years ago. The sun was shining, the crowds gathered, and I got to chew the fat with Dan Cullen, Peter McKenna, Ken Hatcher, Nick Drew, and a whole bunch of other show regulars. Meanwhile, just a short walk away, Kubota was taking the wraps off the largest model in its compact excavator range, the KX 085-5.
This is our biggest machine in the fleet. This is the new KX 85-5. The biggest changes to our machine, it's a continuation of our previous model, but we've made some large improvements to the cab, to the space. We've now got a much more comfortable air suspension seat. It's two positioning with the two options down here. We've increased the floor space for your feet, and we've increased the air circulation for the operator's comfort. And that's the main key. The operator's comfort has now increased tenfold compared to the previous model. We've increased the airflow inside the cab by 20%. If you see, we've got the rectangular ones, which are used for demisting the cab. And then we have the round air outlets, which are purely for operator's comfort. And the anti-theft system, I do believe, was launched back in 2006. And this has been a huge success story for Kubota. We have a red key and we have a black key. The black key starts the machine, and the red key is purely for deleting and reprogramming lost black keys. So if you do lose a key, once you've got your red key, you don't need to worry. You can erase the key so it no longer is compatible with the machine, and through your parts department you can replace the key and program it yourself. Huge success story. Why Kubota? Well, we are Europe's #1. We're the #1 in the UK market, and we've earned it from being reliable and durable. Operators like them, a huge following, and also huge high residual values.
Yeah, we're expecting the mercury to hit 27 degrees here in leafy Surrey today, so those air vents would come in mighty handy here in the Breakfast Show studio, where I'm already perspiring profusely. Thanks to my son Fred at Diggers and Dozers for sharing this film before it goes live on his YouTube channel later today. Go check it out. Hit the subscribe button. Not that he needs any more subscribers, but, you know, that's the way you do these things. At the top of the show, we talked about the tortuous journey of one man trying to retain his competence cards. Thankfully, there are two sides to every story, and for every operator that is made to jump through hoops to prove he can do precisely what he's currently being paid to do, there's another operator who glides smoothly through the process. So next up, we're going to check out a young man forging his way in the industry. That young man is Ben Wade, who's been featured on this very show previously and who was also a guest on our Demolition News Radio podcast. He's also a member of the Construction Content Creators Club as well, but that's a whole other story. You might know him as Ben the Operator over on Instagram. Well, this is his story.
Hi, I'm Ben Wade. I'm 17 years old. I'm already a 360 operator by trade. I work on a few construction sites whenever I can. So I'm here at operator training to try and get my backhoe ticket today, trying to upskill, possibly open up some more job opportunities. I'm leaving school in summer this year, so I'm hoping that with a backhoe ticket, should be more prepared for the industry.
Hop in for me. Okay, yeah, take a seat down there. Good. Yeah, happy. That's pretty intuitive.
Yeah,
pull that forwards and backwards. It goes up, it goes down when you push it forwards. Move it left and right. That's your crowd and you're done. My name's Ben Williamson. I'm a trainer for Staffordshire Operator Training. So operator training was established in 2002, so we've been machinery training for over 20 years. You don't need to be an expert or have grown up with construction machinery to go and get your licence. Tilt forwards so we get that cutting edge down. Nice shallow ramp, you'll find it easy to push in and get a good full bucket. So I'll jump down, I'll give you some instructions from outside the cab and follow me around. We're going to do some manoeuvres.
Okay.
All right, okay. Great, yeah, so obviously Ben's got excavator experience, which helps him on the back end. He's going to find that really easy because the controls of the excavator controls are going to be exactly the same. On the front end, this is something that's new to him, using the shovel, and he's getting really good full buckets now. To start off with, we weren't loading it properly. I would say that's more than full.
That was good so far. Really enjoying this machine. The 61 bucket is definitely a fine art to master, using that bucket. Getting it level to go into a pile it can be quite hard at first, but definitely getting better with it.
Okay, Ben, ready for the test?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
My name's Frank Williamson. I'm the instructor at Staffordshire Operator Training. We're in the theory room at the moment. This is where the theory tests take place.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. The staff have given me some good support with these questions already, so I think we should be good to go.
So there's three main stages to getting your CPCS licence. The first one is the Health, Safety and Environment test. That's an industry standard test that anyone who works on a construction site has to go and take. The second test is a verbal test. That's a one-to-one test that you take with a qualified CPCS tester. The third part is the practical test, which we've been preparing Ben for on the backhoe. All three things can be done at our training centre, the start to finish. We can take you through the whole process and help you get your CPCS licence. The new 3CX is without a doubt the easiest machine to operate in terms of controllability. Anyone who's been on an excavator before and uses the back end on that 3CX is going to be instantly at home. That's it. Push, push, push. Fantastic. I want to keep it nice and flat. I want to keep the front wheels on the floor. Push in, got lots of traction, tip it into the trench. He's a dream candidate.
Okay, Ben, so final element of the test, we've got the practical to do. Not the best of weather, but you know, that's how it is on site. Pre-start checks first, mate.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, let's get at it.
Let's go.
All good.
Perfect.
You passed.
Perfect. Cheers,
well
Frank.
done, well
Cheers.
done. Congratulations.
Perfect. Cheers. Thank you.
Done well.
That was really good. I really enjoyed that. I felt really confident on the machine. No issue at all. A few minor things, as Frank said, but we've all ironed those out now.
Health and safety, theory, practical, all done.
Yep.
Yeah. As you see, it says A12 180 excavator, and that gives you your CPCS card. Okay, Ben.
Cheers,
Congratulations. Pass seats on here. Card will be with you in 2 to 3 weeks.
Perfect.
Well done again.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, obviously that's a recording, and it took place a little while ago, but belated congratulations to Ben Wade on getting his CPCS license on the backhoe loader. And imagine what this industry could do with 10,000 enthusiastic young operators like Ben Wade. It's what we need. Training organisations, please pay attention. That's what we need.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Just before we move on, the hero of the hour is in our midst. Mick Norton's just joined us and says, as the trainer said on the Ben Wade film, a dream candidate. I've already said thank you to Mick Norton for his help helping Graham Williams get his, what did he get? He got his all his competence cards back. Got to retain them. We've already done that piece, but Mick, as you're now in the chat, I just want to say another big thank you for your part in making that happen. Let's have a look. Yeah, we're going to take you around this latest 360-degree camera system from Liebherr in just a moment. First, we're going to pay a visit to John Deere, because we like to see John Deere. And we're going to go see how the US giant is combining tradition and technology to make its dozers ready for the challenges of today's construction world.
Eastern States Construction is very proud of the fact that we're celebrating our 70th year this year, and we are a third-generation family business who is still owned and operated by the same family. We have always been the type of business who wanted to do high value and deliver a great product for our customer. We do site development, we do sewer, and we do water projects, and that's what we do really well. So my grandfather's philosophy has continued into what we are now and what we want to be going into the future. I've been running the business since 2016 and always wanted to be more on the cutting edge and delivering those products with the high quality that we're starting to see now and the technology and abilities that we're starting to get now from our partners. I love where the industry is going to improve the productivity and the quality of the work that we do. I am very, very excited by where we can go with this industry. We love grade control, and I'm amazed when I think back on going to jobs where we didn't have grade control and how much more efficient we've become with it. It's here, it is one of the best things that's out there. And doing a job without it, you're basically doing the same thing we did in the 50s. In 2021, we purchased our first 2 smart grade dozers, and the operators really fell in love with them. They're great dozers, we're really happy with them. The integration of the technology is fantastic. I really enjoyed the fact that they were all built in from the factory and came from the factory ready to go to work. The biggest advantages of smart grade are being able to have all of our team members know exactly what they're doing without any grade stakes or conversations with foremen. They can get down to grade, they know where grade is, they're not overcutting, they're not undercutting. Work is done right the first time to a high level of accuracy. I can't imagine ever having to go back to not using grade control. It has been such an improvement in productivity that I think it's probably the single greatest innovation we've had in construction. Smart grade is probably the largest advancement in construction in the last 40 years.
I'm going to come back to this in a moment. I'm trying to think of a word. Al Grissom, you're in the chat. You'll know the word I'm looking for. You know, we have these bins where people can deposit illegal knives without fear of prosecution. There is a word for that being allowed to happen without fear of prosecution. I've got a mental block. I've had a major brain fart this morning. I can't think of the word. If anybody can come up with that word, I'd love to hear from you. Now, going back to the show, John Deere dozers. Is there a better way to spend a Thursday morning? Now, for the uninitiated, I don't wear this baseball cap to look cool. No. The coolness was merely a byproduct. You see, there's a light above my head, and when I first started live streaming, it used to produce a halo around my head. When I say halo, I meant there was a lot of glare off the top of my rapidly balding noggin. So I adopted the streamer's hat. Operators of Liebherr equipment using the latest 360-degree camera system might like to take a leaf out of my book, unless they too want their shiny heads captured in high-definition video. Tristan May says that's the Liebherr site. We tested the LR 1700, whatever that is, narrow track. I'm guessing that's a crane of some description. Yes, I would imagine that is the proving ground that Liebherr run. Dan Cullen says, I like those camera systems. I'm going to come. We've had a couple of comments actually, one from Dan Cullen and one from Nigel Williams. I'm going to come back to that after the show because I think that's worthy of more discussion. Like the calibration, Matt says, Ken Hatcher, quite right too. Camera system Liebherr, great on an RRV on the railway where there's a lot of people in close proximity. 100% agree on all of that. And I was going to say before I interrupt myself, oh, what a surprise. Liebherr coming up with another great innovation and an equally good film to feature it. Hold the front page. It's getting quite a habit with those people, isn't it? I was talking with my wife on the plane back from Sorrento earlier this week. Yes, we were still talking after spending a week together. We were reminiscing about air travel back in the day. Now, despite appearances to the contrary, I'm not quite old enough to remember the days when you were expected to fly in suits and ties. However, I am old enough to remember a time where there were smoking areas on the plane. I've never smoked myself, but my wife is a reformed smoker. My best mate was a smoker too. So one way or another, I got to inhale a great deal of secondary smoke over the years on aeroplanes. I remember that you were expected to check in an hour before you were due to take off. I remember when every flight over about 30 minutes was accompanied by a meal of some description. Even the early morning flight from London to Glasgow was used to feature a free cup of coffee and a croissant. Now look at it. We're paying more for our air travel, but we get significantly less. There's no free coffee and no free meal. In fact, you're expected to pay about £7 for a coffee and a Twix. I did not. I refused. You're expected to pay to choose your seat. Now, frankly, I don't give a toss about where I sit, but my wife is a nervous flyer, and she insists that we sit together. I think just to torture me, stop me going to sleep, to be perfectly honest. There's an additional charge if you want to travel with anything more than a change of underwear. There was a time when air travel was something to be looked forward to. Now it's merely something to be endured. Now, I realise that the fallout from 9/11 was a huge impact on airport security, but having travelled quite a bit this year, I'm left with a very distinct feeling that we're paying more and getting a great deal less than we used to. Now, that was the end of my gripe, but while I was going through that this morning, it occurred to me, coffee, the fuel that gets me through this show. Do you remember we used to be able to go to a high street shop and get yourself a coffee for 50p or 60p or 70p? And then along comes Starbucks, and they have some nice sofas, and we all watched Friends, so we all aspired to the coffee lifestyle. And now a cup of coffee is upwards of £3. And we all signed up to that. What were we thinking? Anyway, that's my gripe of the day. I'd love to hear yours. What is it that grinds your gears, gets your goat, and generally butters your proverbial parsnips? The daily gripe therapy session will return forthwith, quite possibly tomorrow. Right, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. Got a lot to discuss after the show, and I'm actually going to try live broadcasting the next bit to Instagram. Never done it before. Could go horribly wrong, but I'll try. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues, your pets, anyone else. Just generally be nice. If you have the time and the inclination, please stick around. The Craic will begin right after this final word from our key show sponsor. Just bear with me a second. I thought I could leave that open. Apparently I can't. Let's go over to there. Live. It's going live over on Instagram. We are now live on Instagram, apparently. Good morning to anybody that is tuning in before over on Instagram. I'm going to play some music that the people here can listen to, those that are listening in on Facebook and on YouTube and on LinkedIn. There we go. That's the music. Yes, as I say, just going to say a very quick good morning to those over on Instagram. Trying this for the first time today. Unfortunately, Instagram doesn't actually allow us to stream directly to their platform, so we're unable to share the main part of this show. However, we most certainly can share this bit with them. So if you're now tuning in from Instagram, welcome. In future, if you really want to take part in the show, you might like to tune in over on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Just search for Demolition News at 10 a.m. every morning, and you'll get to see it. Right, I'm going to rattle through the comments very quickly, but there's a couple of key points that I really want to get to, so I'm literally going to rattle this morning. Good morning, Dan Collins. Good morning to Jim Turner, to Mark Whiting. Good morning to Gary Muirhead, who's button is now working. We got there in the end. Good morning to Scott, who's watching over on LinkedIn. I'm fairly sure Scott is with Coordinate Demolition. Good morning to you. Our friend Mr. Crane, Tristan Mays, over at cranehub.net. Good morning to you as well, Tristan. Al Grierson is in the house all the way from Luxembourg. And as we all know, it is Thursday, so it is World Al Grierson Day. Good morning, Al. Good of you to join us. There is Craig Williams from CSW Groundworks and Mostly Media. Craig, you and I need to talk about that. What is Mostly Media? Let us know. Lou Carney, the face, the gorgeous face of Plantworks is in the house. Morning, Lou. Good of you to join us. Jim Turner, yes, what is the point in one-sided arse-licking content? The point is to sell advertising, is the easy answer. I'm not going to direct you to the article that we were talking about, but trust me, if the interviewer had attempted to crawl any further into the rear end of the interviewee, he would need a colonoscopy to get him back out again. Let's have a look. Is that the same guy with arse hair? It's an in-joke, and Tristan Mays, yeah, it is. Thank you very much indeed for that. I asked my question of the day, and we did get some answers on this. What would you sing at a karaoke night, hosted obviously by the Breakfast Show? We did get some answers on that, but I'm going to carry on rattling through. There we are. Good morning, also Glenn Johnson. Morning, Glenn. Any track by Ludovico Einaudi, I'm going to go with, because there are no lyrics. That's the coward's way out, I'd say. But thanks, Al. My song, says Dan Cullen. No great surprise, he's going with an Irish band, and he is going with Streets with No Name by U2. Great song. Absolutely fantastic song. Now, Jim Turner is going with Don McLean, American Pie. Are we going A and B sides? Because the B side is the best bit, particularly the ending, which I'm playing over in my head, just trying to get the lyrics. But it's fantastic. Fantastic. Congratulations to Graham, and well done, Mick. Yeah, well done, Mick, indeed, for seeing Graham Williams through. That's Footy getting his competence cards, which is fantastic news. I'm going to say very quickly to anybody that's watching over on Instagram, I can't watch those comments and these comments at the same time. So if you're watching on Instagram, thank you for saying hello. I'm trying to keep up with two. Trust me. Now, Gary Muirhead is going with his song, Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms, dedicated to my brothers and sisters from the Breakfast Show. Interesting choice. That was actually my choice of songs to play at my dad's funeral. Not going to get teary-eyed about it. My dad was a huge Dire Straits fan, and that seemed like the most appropriate one. Dan Cullen says, question of the day, Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. Okay, Dan, I'll make a deal with you. Should this ever come about, it won't, but should this ever come about, I'll let you do the main Freddie Mercury plinky piano bit, and I'll do the shouty bit at the end, a la Wayne's World. I'm good at that bit. I'm not, but you kind of get the idea. Kubota made some nice changes. Looks awesome. Yeah, that is the KX085-5, the new top-of-the-line Kubota excavator that we were talking about earlier in the show. And if you're watching on Instagram, you can catch this over on YouTube on Catch Up a bit later in the day. Good job updating the cab. This goes back to the Kubota again. That's the complaint I heard most from people using the KX080, says Al Grierson. Yeah, again, it's been an evolution for Kubota going up the size range. Good to see them making those changes. Ben Wade, who is over on Instagram as Ben the operator, has just got his CPCS cards for a backhoe loader. Ben is doing amazing. Well done to him, says Dan Cullen. Totally agree with you. Ken Hatcher, who obviously led the way. 30 years I did on the backhoe. I could teach him a few tips, he says. He was a bit late to the show, was there, Ken? Because he was doing a regen on his machine. Let's have a look. Craig Williams says, Ben equals refreshing. Yeah, isn't it great to see a young person actually taking to the industry like the proverbial duck to water? Totally agree with you. And Al Grierson says, it's Ben. Yes, it is Ben. He has a lot of great content on YouTube. He most certainly does. If you're into all things plant operator, particularly from a young person's perspective, I would strongly recommend that you go and check out Ben Wade over on YouTube. The instructor on that backhoe loader video said it was the easiest machine to learn on, the JCB3CX, and Ken Hatcher somewhat disagrees with that and says it's the hardest. What a muppet. I'm assuming he means them, but it could have been me. I'm happy with that. If you can drive a backhoe, you can pretty much drive anything. Unfortunately, having been taught to drive a backhoe loader, I can't. I am the exception that proves the rule. There's Mick Dalton, as I said, hero of the hour. As the trainer said, a dream candidate. Yeah, if you're already conversant with, or fully conversant with the controls of an excavator, you really only got to learn the loader bit on a backhoe, I guess. I feel now this is why I was looking for the word amnesty. This is good. So I mentioned, for those of you watching on Instagram, and I need to stop saying that, obviously there is a skill shortage in the UK construction industry. We need more operators than we currently have, and we need to bring them on board. Now, a few weeks ago, we reported on the fact that the UK government was planning to waive certain immigration restrictions to ensure that we could bring back some of our migrant workers that left after Brexit. Why could we not have some form of amnesty? And I'm not sure, even now I'm not entirely sure that is the word, but an amnesty that allows operators, young operators, straight out of school, college, university, to join the industry free of charge. Dan Cullen has said there, I feel to get more operatives in this industry, they need to look at the price of cars. Why do we not have a starter card that is free? my take on this, and I'm in agreement with Dan Cullen, as I so often am. My personal feeling on this is, I always say this about exhibitions. If you can get young people along to a Plant Works or a Hillhead or a Balmer or a Conexpo, whatever it might be, and show them what big machines look like, show them what they feel like, show them what they're capable of doing, I think you will inspire and you will attract them to stay around the industry. And I would say the same about the card scheme. Why can we not have a starter card to get people basically onto machines to start to learn the ropes? And while they're learning the ropes, they are getting inspired by the machines on which those ropes are being learned. Why are we not doing that? And we're going to come back to that in just a second. That grade control makes easy work. Yeah, absolutely. That is the very point of technology. Would love to see John Deere plant hitting the UK. You and me both, Nigel. And Nigel Williams has just said morning. Good morning, Nigel. For those of you that aren't aware, Nigel Williams has a podcast. It is called From the Seat of the Cab. You can find it on all good podcast platforms and some rubbish ones too. Go check it out. It's good. It's very good. Mick Norton. Mark, thanks for the feedback regarding Graham Williams. I was delighted to help in a small way to get this seasoned operator with his ticket renewal. With 10% of the sector suffering from some form of dyslexia, there's more to do. And I think that's an important distinction that our friend Mick has just made there. Obviously, we're talking about one man, Graham Footy Williams, size 17 feet. I'm going to throw into the chat, size 17 feet. Must have a couple of barges instead of shoes, but yeah, size 17 feet. So Graham Footy Williams has just renewed his card, but despite being dyslexic. But 10% of the industry. Now, there's a couple of things I want to pick up on there. First of all, is that a national average, or do we have a higher level? Because I've always had this notion that the construction and demolition industry does have a nasty habit of attracting those that largely opted out, for one reason or another, opted out of formal education. They either left school early, they didn't do school particularly well, they were kicked out of school, and so on down the line. So do we have a 10% dyslexia rate because as an industry we're more willing to take those with dyslexia? Or, I don't know which way around it is. If anybody's got any thoughts on that. But 10%, so bearing in mind the number of operators and operatives we have in this industry, 10% is a huge number. Now, between Mick Norton, mainly Mick Norton, and Nocken, and a tiny little bit of input from me, we've managed to get one guy over the line. How many others are out there? 10%. What is 10%? Is it 5,000? Is it 50,000? I honestly don't know the answer to that. But surely these training organisations, Quangos, call them what you will, surely they should have thought about this in advance. And I'm talking about people with dyslexia here, but there are other people that might have reading and writing difficulties for other reasons other than dyslexia. But there's also going to be, and I've already mentioned them once, migrant workers that are either coming to the UK or are already here, for whom English is not the first language. They are going to need the same level of assistance that Graham Williams received. Is it readily available? Apparently, because Mick Norton knows his way around the system, he found the right people and they pressed the right buttons, and they made it happen in pretty short order, it has to be said. 3 or 4 weeks and the whole thing was resolved. But is that happening to the rest of the industry, to the rest of the dyslexics, to the rest of the industry that struggle with reading and writing, and to the rest of the industry for whom English is not the first language? Love to hear from you on that. Yeah, there we are. I was looking for a word, and Mick Norton said amnesty. Yes, I think amnesty might be the word. But yeah, just a waiver for a year to get people into the industry, show them what the industry is all about, let them get the feel for it, let them get inspired by the machines and the projects and that kind of thing, and then worry about the formal education afterwards. Mick Norton did beat you to it, but thank you very much indeed for coming up with the word I was looking for. And there's me saying thank you. Funny enough, I used to do this with my mum. Sadly, no longer with us, but I used to do this with my mum. Despite the fact that I'm a journalist, every once in a while I'd have a brain fart, as I described it. And even though I knew there was a word that meant what I wanted to say, but I couldn't think of the word. And I used to phone my mum and try to explain. I need a word that means this. And then 10 minutes later, we'd probably come up with it together. Morning, pal. Nigel Williams. Yes, be interested to see if they come up with John Deere dozers. My car does that, which I think is a 360-degree video system from Liebherr. But, excuse me, that looks like I've forgotten about aftermarket attachment. There will come a time, surely there will come a time, when things like camera systems and GPS and all of those, what we currently consider to be luxury items, will come as standard on all machines anyway. Surely only a matter of time. Ken Hatcher is agreeing, good setup on the Liebherr machine. Tristan Mays identified the venue of the testing that was going on. Now, Nigel Williams, Dan, I think you're wrong about car prices dissuading young folk. It's a societal values issue. Okay, roll up your sleeves, people. Bumpy ride ahead. Dan, I think you're wrong about car prices dissuading young folk. It's a societal values issue. No one values tradesmen, but they need them. Young people aren't shown productive role models. They're shown entertainers and told they need to emulate that for career success. What a eloquent and actually largely true. Now, bearing in mind what it is I do for a living, I'm an elderly YouTuber, for want of a better word. I'm not going to go down the road of calling myself an influencer, because I hate that. I know Tristan Mays hates that. I don't like content creator, because I'd like to think that there's a bit more thought goes into what I do than just spewing content, like some people with arse hair. So I don't like that, but I do see the value in YouTube and Facebook, and I realise it's the modern world, and I can understand young people being attracted to it. But going back to Nigel Williams' point there, young people aren't shown productive role models. You're 100% right. There is an expression, and I've seen it used in both a racial context, and I've also seen it used in a gender context. You can't be what you can't see. In other words, if you're a young lady who wants a role in construction, and there are no role models like our friend Katie Keller and a whole bunch of others to look up to and to follow their path, it's not actually a route for you. Unless somebody has actually trodden that path, it becomes, rather than just a path, it becomes an uphill struggle. You can't be what you can't see. So where are those role models? And I know, I realise the show is done very much tongue-in-cheek, but look at Clarkson's farm. Obviously, you know, Jeremy Clarkson, divisive character, but in Clarkson's farm, he is the butt of almost all of the jokes. He is the wealthy idiot, while his young sidekick Caleb is the brains of the outfit. Even though Caleb probably very poor formal education, but he knows his stuff. Where is Construction's Caleb? Who are we looking at on TV and in the media as a person to follow into this industry, be they male or female? Where is Construction's role model? Shit, it ain't me. I'm far too old. Who the hell would follow me? And you know, most of the other people that do what it is I do, they're not appropriate for the job either. So where are those young role models? Nigel Williams, good point. I can sense that being an episode of your excellent podcast. I like the calibration mats. I'd like a set of calibration mats hanging on the wall. I think that would look fantastic. A camera system from Liebherr would be great on an RRV on the railway. There's lots of people working in close proximity. Railways really are very demanding safety-wise, aren't they? Once again, the Germans showing how it's meant to be done. Ain't that always the way? Technology, efficiency, sausages. I'm told beer. It's an avenue of pleasure that is now closed to me forever, but I'm told beer as well. Nigel Williams, to get more operatives, I think they should do a payment plan in place to help people that don't have access to the cash required to fulfil their needs. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. How many work sectors is there a requirement for you to pay to play? If I wanted to be a journalist, I don't require a license or a competence card or a training course. As long as I can prove to my editor that I can do my job, there is no cost. If I want to be a postman, you go through an interview, they offer you the job, and you get the job. If you want to be a hairdresser, I realise there are qualifications within hairdressing, but if you want to go and wash hair and sweep the floor and learn as you go along, there is no cost. Yes, you probably have to invest in a pair of scissors and some clippers to keep my luxurious beard in trim, but there is no cost. And yet here in construction, you want to be part of this industry where we are desperate for people? Cough up, people. Why is that peculiar? Why is that peculiar to us? Is it peculiar to us? I've got Safety Shield AI humanoid. Good Lord. It sounds either like some sort of medical condition or a science fiction novel gone mad. Nigel Williams says, I've got Safety Shield AI humanoid recognition on this little Hydreamer, 360-degree camera and in-cab facing camera cams. I do like a good system to help me in the field. And that is precisely the point. I know Lou Carney works very closely with the team over at X-Watch. That is the very purpose of X-Watch. It's the very purpose of Safety Shield, very purpose of the camera system fitted to those Liebherr wheel loaders. It is there to make your life better, to make you safer, to make you more productive. That's all it's there for. It's not there to detract from your skill set. Dan's, this is Nigel Williams. I did a recent podcast about cars. All training is 100% tax deductible. Take a loan or credit card, pay training and pay off debt when you claim it back on your rebate. Should you have to? I take your point, and I agree. Should you have to? Lou Carney is, I'm not sure what caused that, but good morning, Lou. Nigel Williams, I've sung a few songs. Everlong by the Foo Fighters. If anyone's ever heard Everlong by the Foo Fighters, great song anyway. If anyone's ever heard Foo Fighters and Dave Grohl doing it acoustic, oh, that's a belter. Question today. Corey Taylor. This is obviously Corey Taylor, lead singer of Slipknot, does a song called Merry Effing Christmas, apparently. Not heard that. I'm going to go and look it up. But that would be Lou Carney's go-to, which means we probably have to make our karaoke night a festive affair. I'll bear that in mind, should I ever get round to it. I won't. No problem, Mark. Let's get a karaoke night organised. Let's not do that. Let's do something else here. Only at Christmas. Okay, I was getting ahead of myself. Ben is such a lovely lad too. Yes, going back to Ben Wade, our operator, Ben the operator, who is obviously on Instagram and on YouTube as well. He is a lovely lad. As I say, I had the pleasure of interviewing him for my podcast not so long ago, and came away just thinking if we could clone a few thousand of him, I think the industry's problems would quickly melt away. Backhoe loaders not all the same. I can drive an old style SAE, ISO and John Deere case style with sticks too, says Nigel Williams. Yeah, all education should be free. Now, bearing in mind, aside from being a digger spotter extraordinaire, Al Grierson is a teacher. He's in the education business. All education should be free. Hear, hear. Hear, hear. And ultimately, you know, to my mind, I agree. I think all education should be free. And bearing in mind, and I realise the way that the industry has gone, in that we've gradually pushed people off the books and into self-employment or working through agencies, particularly plant operators and that kind of thing. But if we're going to have employers signing up to card schemes, if they want to do that, that's their choice, and good luck with that. But if they decide that's the way forward, then they should be funding every single card scheme there is. Every single one. There should not be something coming out of school, college or university, possibly already burdened with student debt, then having to pay to join an industry that is desperate to have them. It's a nonsense. Dan Cullen, it's a good point, Mark. I think before operators are due to retire, why don't they get new operatives to site on this trial card, learn from experienced operators before they leave the industry? There are many, many things about this industry over which I would like to jiggle a magic wand, but that would be the biggest. Every single day in this industry, we lose experienced operators. operators that could pass on a great deal of knowledge. And I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. It's not just their skills behind the levers that we lose. I think there is an education to be had on operating equipment and maintaining machines. I understand all of that. But I think if you took the right young person and put them with the right veteran operator, what you will end up with is not just a fully qualified operative, you would end up with a fully rounded human being as well. Somebody that works as part of the team to make everybody more efficient. Somebody that understands the work ethic that's required within construction, the camaraderie that's required within construction. I think there is so much to be said for that. And as I say, if I could wave a magic wand and make it happen, mentorship, an official mentorship program, so that we could pair up and coming operators and operatives with soon to be outgoing mentors. Craig Williams, another decent vid on the KX 085-5. Another? Are there more? I think Craig Williams may have done one. Go and check it out. That's the big problem today. Too many creators and other computer-related issues. There is no enticement to attract young people to the construction industry. You're absolutely right. I was talking to a young guy, Dan from Bournemouth, if you're watching. I was actually talking to a young guy on the plane on the way back from Italy 2 days ago. And he asked what I did. And I said, look, I realise this is going to sound like a wind-up, bearing in mind I'm as old as the hills, but I'm basically a live streamer. I'm a journalist by training, but I'm a live streamer. And he was asking how I got into it, and he was asking about the money that's to be had in it and all that kind of thing. And you could see that there was this look in his eye like, I can see the prize at the end, i.e. making money, and I can see how I get there, but I'm going to miss out all that middle bit. I just want somebody to say, okay, here's how you start a YouTube channel. Here's what you talk about. Here's how often you talk about it. Here's how you film it. Here's how you edit it. I don't care about all that. I just want the money at the end of it. And I think that is the problem at the moment with young people. And I'm sure it's always been the same. If you'd have asked me what I wanted to do, genuinely what I wanted to do when I was 14 or 15 years old, it was to play in the midfield at West Ham United. Simple as that. To my mind, bearing in mind I'm going back a long way here, footballers weren't earning anywhere near the amount of money that they're earning today. So I wasn't looking specifically for the financial benefits. I was looking more specifically at the glory of playing for the football team that I loved. But at no point would I have considered all of the hard work and the training and the commitment that was required. All I wanted was to put on a claret and blue shirt, run out Upton Park and score a 30-yard free kick in my debut game. That was all I was interested in. And I think fast forward to today, I think that's exactly what we've got. I think media and social media has got a lot to answer for, in that it shows all of the success, but it doesn't show you the hard work. And when you think, there are YouTubers out there like Mr. Beast, who now has hundreds of millions of subscribers. And I think he's very good at what he does. But bearing in mind, he's been doing that for about 15 years now. He started as effectively a child. He's been doing that for 15 years. But now people are looking up to him as this overnight success. There's no overnight success. There's no overnight success in YouTube. There's no overnight success in football. And there's most certainly no overnight success in construction. You have to work at it. And we don't show that. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. You can't be what you can't see. So I think it's, in the nicest possible way, I think it's too late with Ben Wade. But imagine getting a Ben Wade at age 15, pulling him out of school and saying, what do you want to be? I'm really, really desperate to be a digger driver, and to follow him through his journey, going to interviews with him with a video camera, going through his initial take on the machines, going through some of the abuse that he's going to suffer on site, because that's what the industry is all about. But follow that journey and actually give young people a path to follow. Lots to be said for it. There he is, Graham Footy Williams. Should I tell him? Still don't know if I've got my tickets yet. I did it last week. I'm still waiting to find out. Graham, you got your tickets, mate. I don't know. There's no way of dressing that up. I heard late last night that, yeah, you got your tickets. Congratulations, my friend. We've already done a piece on it, so when the show's over, rewind, go back, have a look. It's the first story of the show. But yes, I heard from Mick Norton that the fine folks at Knockham have given you your green light. So congratulations again. The problem today, oh, there are so many. The problem today is there has been a massive confusion between industry influencer and social media personality. I'll let you decide who's who. Yeah, totally agree. And I have no problem with either. There are people out there who are earning a very good living being a social media personality. Does that influence actual purchasing decisions? I would question that it does in any way, shape or form. I think somebody stood by a machine going like this is never going to sell an excavator. But that's fine. If that's how they want to make their living, and if people want to pay them to do that, crack on, each to their own. No problem at all. I would say exactly the same about any men or women who are on OnlyFans. If you want to do that, crack on. Good luck. If you earn a fortune, bloody good luck to you. But let's not confuse that with an actual influencer. And I'm not talking about a social media influencer, but think about the story that we told at the beginning of the show. Graham Williams, struggling with dyslexia, couldn't sign up to get his cars renewed, and was also going to require a lot of assistance to get through the test to get his card. We highlighted it. Mick Norton picked it up and ran with it. He's got his cards. That is influence. Between myself and Mick and Knockham, there has been an influence that has resulted in a positive outcome. That is influence, even though I hate the term influencer. Nigel Williams, all goes back to my mentoring crusade, doesn't it? Yes, it does. It does. On so many things, I wish the wider world would take note of some of the discussions that are going on. And I'm not talking necessarily about discussions that go on in the show. There are discussions aplenty going on within the industry. But surely, to every once in a while, just dip your toe in the industry water to see which way it's flowing, to find out what it is that is getting the goat and buttering the parsnips of the industry. Things like mentoring. The very thought of allowing experienced operators, Nigel's relatively young, but somebody like a Nigel Williams, just imagine, handing him his gold watch at the end of his 30, 40-year career and then sending him on his way. And all of that knowledge, all that experience just walks out the door, and we're allowing that to happen day after day after day, when in actual fact we could have hung on to them, or even allow them to retire on time, but for the year or 6 months before they leave, give them a charge to take under their wing and show them the ropes. We're missing a trick, people. There needs to be more apprenticeships with more government funding. My lad has just started, he's at 16, he's loving it, and coming out of it at least 4 categories of plant. But we are bearing in mind, going back to, who were we talking to? Ollie Guns, I think it was. Ollie Guns told his career advisor at school that he wanted to be a plant operator and to run a groundworks company, and was strongly advised against it, told he should go to university and get a formal education. Why? What is wrong with vocational skills? What is wrong with getting your hands dirty? There is a breakdown in communication here. And I'm going to go over old ground. I often do. I'm going to go over old ground here. Australia obviously has very tight border control. And every once in a while they find themselves short of a certain vocation. Hairdressers, plumbers, whatever it might be. And they basically waive the immigration laws for a temporary period to get more people on board from the UK or for other parts of the world. So, we need more plumbers. Let's attract some plumbers from the UK or from Germany or Italy, whatever it might be. And that's a system that works. We have that as an ongoing situation here in the UK construction industry. We are constantly in need of operatives. We're constantly in need of operators. Why aren't we speaking to schools? Why aren't we speaking to colleges and universities and urging selective people? I'm not saying it's for everybody. You know, if you're top of your class in mathematics, then maybe an academic career is more your thing. But if you're not, if you're a bit more hands-on, a bit more practical, maybe you're not much with the reading and the writing and the arithmetic, 3 R's, maybe they should be taken to one side. Have you considered a career in construction? Here's how it works. Here's how you get in. Here's what you have to do. And here, within the next 3 years, is what you could be earning. Why aren't we doing that? There's a lack of joined up thinking, as there so often is. Not surprising, money has become more and more important to survival as the state has dropped its social responsibilities and left people to the mercy of the market. It's bizarre how deep this show can get at times, isn't it? My pupils are also focusing a lot more on how to make money and falling for endless get-rich schemes and on social media. Scams on social media, should I say. Yeah, I was reading a thing on Rolling Stone magazine last night. Don't read it very often, but I do read it occasionally. Journalism is very good. Just don't particularly like some of the people they feature. But there was a guy that was being featured, a sort of a French Arabian rapper who I'd never heard of. Can't remember his name. It's gone completely out of my head. But he was basically a con artist. You know, he's on YouTube waving great wads of money, and he's got his Bugatti behind him and his Ferrari and his Lamborghini and all the things. Whole thing was a complete sham. In actual fact, part of it was being financed by his fans. People were contacting him on Twitter and Instagram, and he'd reach out to them and say, I can help you pursue my lifestyle. Just send me 10,000, 20,000 euros, and you too can live my lifestyle. And a ridiculous number of people fell for it. Footballers are getting far too much money nowadays and no interest in the game. I think it's because the week's pay is deterring people to start in construction. I blow hot and cold on the footballer thing. You know, it is the biggest entertainment resource in the entire world, I'm led to believe. And you know, if the businesses behind football are willing to pay somebody £250,000 or more a week, good luck. I have no qualms about that. I do think there's an imbalance. I think, you know, if we're going to pay anybody that sort of money, it should be nurses and doctors and firemen and policemen and firefighters and that kind of thing. I understand all of that, but deterring people to start in construction, yeah. And yet, you know, you look, you know, I go to events in the demolition and construction industry on a fairly regular basis, and you have a look, and you know, there are plenty of Bentleys and Ferraris and stuff doing the rounds in that industry. You don't have to play football. You don't have to be on YouTube. You can go, yes, there's probably a longer build up to it, but you can do it via construction. There should be a provisional license for new plant operators on site. They should have L plates on their mount, and someone with that category of plant should be working with within the specified radius of the machine. That way I could have an hour or two on the dumper and let a wannabe plant op a chance on the levers whilst getting work done, keeping an eye on them. Jim Turner for Education Minister. Yeah, and let's be absolutely honest. I mean, aside from the provisional license, that's not dissimilar to how the industry used to work. You know, by and large, the experienced plant operator was probably your dad. Look at Nick Drew. Look at Nick Drew as a prime example. The reason Nick Drew ended up driving a digger and then ultimately ended up writing about them was because he'd gone to work with his dad, he'd sat beside him, and his dad had shown him the ropes, and as a result, he'd ended up doing that for a living. Why did we stop doing that? Why did we decide that the ways of the old were not the ways of the future? And I blame a lot of it. I blame an awful lot of it on our health and safety fixation. I'm just back from Italy. There are people riding motor scooters without crash helmets. There is smoking in restaurants and bars. The roads are in a terrible, terrible state. But it all holds together. It was a lovely holiday. Nobody died. Nobody died while I was there, as far as I'm aware. There were no accidents. There were no people being unnecessarily affected by the smoke. Bearing in mind, when I say in restaurants, most of the restaurants are open air anyway. So no, I wasn't impacted by somebody smoking a cigarette a table or two away. None whatsoever. And yet you look at this country is so fixated. So that idea, that notion of going to work with your father on a Saturday to see how a machine works, to actually have a go yourself, to see what went into maintaining it, we've lost all of that because we're so fixated with health and safety. Dan Cullen says, okay, guys, have a wonderful Thursday. Stay safe. Have a great day. Remember to tell your loved ones you love them and you're thinking of them. All the best. And see you tomorrow. Yeah, see you tomorrow. Graham Footy Williams says, thank you very much. I feel slightly bad now. I assumed, as I'd been told that you'd got your cards, you'd been told you'd got your cards. I don't know what went wrong there. I'm sorry I let the cat out of the bag. I'm sorry it was a spoiler, but congratulations nonetheless. Ruben Owen was at Plant Works with a TV crew. He's a great lad too. Fantastic ambassador for the sector. Don't know Ruben Owen. I'm going to go and look him up after the show, but thanks for that, Luke. Don't trust school teachers. Careers, person, opinion. We make more money than they do. We've been earning since 16 years of age. We've haven't run up any student debt either. Good point. I just want to go back though. Don't trust the school teacher's opinion. I trust Al Grierson's. I'm making an exception. He seems like a great young fella and a great family too. Awesome stuff. I can't sing, says Ken Hatcher. No, neither can I. But I'm putting you down for something by Celine Dion, Ken, regardless. The market should dictate everything. It's ridiculous centralised planned economy and education that has put us here. Blair and his everyone should go to university poppycock. Yeah. I realise I'm knocking on a bit, but when I left school, I didn't know one person that went to university or had gone to university. It was only actually when I started work full-time as a journalist, and we had a young guy join us, fresh out of university, who insisted on having his degree on his business cards, despite the fact that we told him, it's construction, and even we had some really, really smart people, multiple qualifications. They didn't have that on their business cards, but he was fresh out of university and he insisted, and he was the first person that I actually was aware of being a university grad, and he was basically my junior, even though I'd been through a comprehensive school and a local college. That was my training. Didn't do me any harm. I realise, I do realise, for some people, university is the way to go, and I think there are some professions. I'm thinking legal profession, medical profession. I do think there is a need for that level of academic qualification, but not for everyone. It doesn't have to be for everyone. I'll miss tomorrow's episode, heading to Manchester for the weekend for a wee family get-together. You'll be back in Blighty, Al. Wish I was headed to Manchester with you. Go and say hello, but we will miss you on the show. Have a good time with the family. Let's have a look. Okay, we'll make Al the exception to the rule. Sorry, Al, says Jim Turner. Right, people, on both, not both, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on YouTube. That's the end of the show. On Instagram, it's also the end of the show. Not sure what people on Instagram have made of this, because obviously the main chat has been going on over there. But if you are on Instagram and you've been watching us on Instagram, our show goes live every single day, virtually. It's called The Breakfast Show. You can find it on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. If you'd like to be more part of the show and actually see the content that led to all of that discussion, please come and join us. We start at 10 a.m. every single morning. No worries, Jim, says Al Grierson, signing off the show. That is an hour and 10 minutes. Well, it's an hour and 10 minutes here. It's probably about 40 minutes over here. You get the idea. Everybody, go and have a fantastic day. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I'll be back here at 10 a.m. tomorrow. If you're on Instagram, I'm going to try this again just to make sure we're getting people tuning in. But hopefully we'll get you to tune over somewhere else. But I'll be here as always. Al Grierson, doesn't Ofsted punish UK schools that don't send enough people to uni? I didn't know that was the case, but frankly, it would not surprise me. Would not surprise me one bit, because that's how screwed up the system is. Why would you? My son did 2 out of 3 years at university, hated virtually every moment of his second year there, and came out of it, decided to pursue a career doing more or less what I do, and is making way more money than he would have done had he gone through university. Why on earth would you bother if you don't need to? Get out to work, earn a crust, be a valued member of society, rather than racking up student debt, as somebody mentioned earlier in the show. Right, people, go and have a fantastic day. Back here tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed apprenticeships are just as much further education as universities, says Jim Turner. They are. I agree. Go and have a good day, everybody. See you all very soon. All the best.